How real is the interest between Fresno State and the Big 12, and when could that possible union occur? Also, we've got some numbers from the NCAA tournament in terms of financials, conference by conference. Where does the Big 12 fit in what was a disappointing year for them in the NCAA tournament? All that's coming up on today's show.
You are Locked On Big 12, your daily podcast on the Big 12 Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Josh Neighbors here, Locked On Big 12 podcast. Make sure you guys subscribe here on YouTube. At the time of recording this, we are 4 subscriptions away from 3,700, which was our goal by the end of the month of March. So we really appreciate it if you all would subscribe to the channel. Make sure you guys like the videos, leave comments as well. That always helps. We're trying to grow this thing. So likes and the comments help a lot. Follow us on Twitter at LOBig12. You guys can follow me at JoshNeighbors_. And also find this podcast wherever you get your podcasts. So if you guys can't watch on YouTube, you all can listen to the podcast wherever you guys are. Either is great for us. We love it when you guys do that. Share the podcast, leave 5-star reviews, all of those things. All right, so let's attack today's topic. So first of all, Fresno State. We know that there is some interest, or at least their president has said that there is interest between Fresno State and the Big 12. Now, here is how this occurred. So University President Saul Jimenez Sandoval reportedly confirmed via the San Joaquin Valley Sun that and there was some Thursday confab thing that they did, and it's what they called it, for a sales tax initiative, confirmed that the Big 12 has expressed interest in them, and I think they have interest in the Big 12. Here is why. There is something called Measure E that is happening right now. They're trying to get passed. It is a sales tax initiative. Measure E, if passed, could be the ticket to upgrades for Fresno State that would at least boost the school's candidacy to join a Power 5 conference as an expansion candidate. This is from Dean Straka at 24/7 Sports. Among targeted projects by Fresno State, per the Sun, are a $160 million renovation project to Valley Children's Stadium, where they play football, and then a $47 million renovation to the Duncan Athletic Center, which I believe is like kind of like the training facility and whatnot. Measure E, they've already attempted to pass it once. It failed in November. And I think it was like relatively close, but they're trying to get it passed again. So why does this matter? Because when we just, number one, okay, let's just go on the interest front really fast. So do I think the Big 12 has interest in Fresno State? Yes, I think the Big 12 has plenty of interest in a bunch of schools out west. Obviously, their priorities right now are the Pac-12 schools. Because those schools carry more value. ESPN has placed a pro rata value on them for adding those schools. There are brands such as Oregon and Washington that are long shots, but still available. There are brands like Utah, Colorado, Arizona, and Arizona State that feel attainable, and some Arizona State feel much more attainable than, actually, I wouldn't say much more attainable, but like there's more of a desire there to potentially be involved if things don't go their way, with George Kliavkoff in the Pac-12, television thing. So because Fresno State's a Mountain West school, like you're going to put that in the back burner for right now. That is why they're not priority number one. But if the Pac-12 does remain together, we do know that Brett Yormark, the commissioner of the Big 12, has expressed interest in being in the 4th time zone. Right now, the Big 12 is in the East Coast time zone, the Central time zone, and then next year they will be in the Mountain time zone. So they will be in 3 of the 4 time zones. They can get all the way there and kind of fill more television slots if they add a team out west. So I think Fresno State could be a valuable, venture in Brett Yormark's mind. But once again, guys, I've said this a bunch. The priority right now for the Big 12 is the Pac-12 schools. So this is something I think that I intend on revisiting, and we're going to revisit because I don't see any immediate movement on this. Another reason why is, think about what we're getting this news from. Well, they're trying to push this Measure E business, and think about it like this. They want that big upgrade, $160 million football stadium, and $47 million, $207 million, target range here. And I'm sure some of it would be private donations, some of it would be tax dollars, all that stuff. But that is saying that, hey, we need to beef things up. And there's a lot of movement right now, and we could be a potential candidate. So we have to get there, which means they're not there right now. They are not in a position at this moment in time where I think everything's up to snuff. And it kind of brings up an interesting idea, something we could talk about here of like, the mixture of athletic success plus, revenue, potential place to grow, and also facilities and all of this stuff. So I've never been to Valley Children's Stadium before. I don't claim to know much about it. It seems like a decent stadium when I'm watching on television, right? But it's not like this amazing, unbelievable theater of West Coast football. And then, the rest of the facilities, I'd assume it's like pretty decent. I knew somebody who played lacrosse at Fresno State and never heard any complaints from her about wasn't really good friends with her, but I never really just heard any complaints about it. Never heard anybody said, yeah, so-and-so left Fresno because they didn't like it. Facilities are bad, whatever. Seems like it was a pretty good experience. And Fresno has put good players in the NFL. They have obviously put players in the NBA. I mean, they have, there is some pedigree there. Their football program pretty consistently, I guess, feels like they are competing for Mountain West championships. Their basketball has been up and down since 03-04 last 20 seasons. They've been to one NCAA tournament. Actually, it was under Rodney Terry, funny enough. Rodney Terry was there from 12 all the way through 16-17. And he had through 17-18. He had a decent amount of 20+ win seasons while he was there. They've had some, really good seasons. They were not very good this year, but like it's just not right now. It's not a basketball program. I think at this point in time, it's pretty safe to say it's a consistent winner. They're not bad, but they're not a consistent winner at the Mountain West level. The Mountain West is not a bad competitive conference. For football, for them, if you go and look at Fresno State, so Fresno football by season. I want to make sure I get the records right here with all this, but if you think about like they have had a decent amount of success, right? The team that goes bowling a lot of the time, they since 2017, they've had four 10+ win seasons, 10-4 in 17 under Jeff Tedford, a 12-2 in 17 under Jeff Tedford. Then obviously Kalen DeBoer was there. Jeff Tedford was back this year and won 10 games. Then they won the Las Vegas Bowl. I think it was their 10th game. They are constantly going to championship games, right? In the Mountain West Conference. So this is a strong brand. At least recently, that's had a decent amount of success. Although, if I were to say, like, if you were to give me two California schools and say, which one would you rather have, San Diego State or Fresno State, I would lean more towards San Diego State, right? They are in a major, obvious. Fresno's not small, but it's not like super major. San Diego is a major city. Their basketball team is on the way to the Final Four right now. Their football team is, it's consistently won for a decent interval of time. They've had a pretty consistent winner. It feels like maybe not the highs that Fresno State has had. If you go look at San Diego State, you look at their football resume. Because I know a lot of conversation now is like, all right, is this now the time where we get the move from San Diego State to like the Pac-12? And so, I think they're also football wise. Yeah. So they've had 12-2. Oh yeah. They go bowling. I mean, all the time. Good Lord. 7-6, 12-2, 10-3, 7-6, 10-3, 11-3, 11-3. I mean, the last time they had a losing season, by God, was back in 2009. They had a 4-8 season under Brady Hoke. And then, he goes 9-4 the next year. And then Rocky Long had some success there for a long time. Brady Hoke's back there and they're winning a decent amount of games once again. So, they've had a very good run there. And then basketball, they finally cracked the code, made the Elite Eight, Sweet 16. Like they're starting to look like a Power 5 program. Facilities wise, into their basketball arena is kind of like one of those out. It's weird. There's a bunch of these out West arenas. And I think BYU's got one too, where it's like just high bowls. It's almost like the Octagon of Doom. High bowl seating goes straight down to the floor and like just cuts off from the concourse level. They've got one of those in the football stadium. I think they just did a renovation on there. Maybe just got a new one. I think we saw like a bunch of people like passing out at the games this year. But they just renovated and made a new stadium. So they're trending in that direction. Look, I don't know if they're a massive needle mover in terms of like what they bring with the television. I don't think they're a huge needle mover there, and I don't think Fresno's a huge needle mover either. But if we're talking about for the Pac-12 solidifying your hold, San Diego State makes a lot of sense. If we're talking about the Big 12 trying to expand, if Pac-12 schools are not available, then then Fresno makes a lot of sense if San Diego State's not available. Right. But that's why it's one of those deals where I don't think it's a right now thing. And I think once again, this Measure E thing shows that they're not all the way there with their facilities being able to compete at this level. The facilities in this league, oh my God, the amount of care and the amount of emphasis. You hear about the initiatives that Gene Taylor has going on, what Texas Tech is trying to do right now. Baylor, obviously, oh my God, McLean Stadium is gorgeous. All of these places are, putting and pumping a lot of money here, and Fresno State's trying to get to that level. They're not there yet, though, right now. So this is one of those put a pin in it. And then if West Coast expansion is really just one of the most important things to you, go ahead and do it. But, I'm at a point right now, guys, where I don't think this league should just dilute itself down just because you want to go out west. Like you're not at the point now where that's got to be that's an option, because you might be able to still pull off Arizona, Arizona State, Colorado, Utah, and maybe hell, even Oregon and Washington, right? That's still out there. It's still tough to attain, but still out there. That's why I wouldn't do this just yet. And so, I think Fresno State's president's putting it out there because they want, they want Pac-12 interest. They want interest from the Big 12. They want it to be known there's interest. They want that good publicity. They want to pass this Measure E thing. And I think the idea of TCU and Baylor and Oklahoma State and Iowa State and Texas Tech and UCF and BYU filling up your home schedule is very appealing to folks, the taxpayers who might use Children's Valley Stadium, whatever it is, Valley Children's Stadium as something they want to do. This is a place they go. Same thing for basketball as well. Like it's just it makes them more sympathetic to a cause. And so I think the interest is there, but I think there's also an understanding, like if you want to get this thing done, if you want to go to a power conference, you're going to need that funding. You're going to need those stadiums because that need that money for these venues. Because I don't think the Big 12 is just going to take you on just to do it. You're an interesting prospect right now, Fresno State, but I'm not all the way there yet with that. So I would say Fresno State's going to be a wait and see. Sure, there's interest. And I'm sure the Big 12 has expressed interest in a lot of schools, kind of doing their due diligence. But I think at this point in time, it's all about trying to get other Power 5 schools because, once again, ESPN has promised to pay for them. If you get them, it weakens the Pac-12. It makes your product stronger. It's really the best possible move right now. So I don't think, once again, folks, the whole thesis here is separate Fresno and the Pac. They're related, but, I don't think you're going to be working on bringing in the Fresno and working on bringing in Pac-12 schools at the same time. Maybe you are. Maybe you pull an Arizona plus a Fresno State, but I don't think Arizona's leaving without Arizona State, right? So I think, you might be adding 3 there, and do you want to add 3? So it kind of gets into one of those, weird spots. Excuse me. But they're getting rid of divisions anyway, so I guess you could have an odd number. But it does kind of make it weird if you're doing the crossover games, the opponents and whatnot. So I think odd numbers is kind of how you want to do it. Now you could add once again odd numbers, but I think evens are where you want to add. You want to be at 14, 16, 18, not 15. You could be at 15, but I think overall you'd like to be on the more even numbers, bringing in schools with rivals, with natural partners, all those things. All right, quick word from our sponsors, and then we'll talk some more financial news. Some positive stuff for the Big 12, even after what was a rough NCAA tournament. Let you all know, though, about our friends at the FanDuel Sportsbook. America's #1 sportsbook is FanDuel. Go to FanDuel.com/lockedon today. When you guys do, you guys can go there and sign up. It's easy to do. You guys, on your first deposit, your first bet, you guys can get up to, I think, $1,000 back on your first bet. Just make sure you guys use FanDuel.com/lockedon. You guys, if you lose it, you get a return on that bet in the form of free bets on FanDuel.com/lockedon. So check them out. All right, so some interesting numbers came in from the NCAA tournament payouts. Now, this was a projection that was run. I'm going to double check to make sure I have where it is from. Let's see. Eben Novi Williams put this out. Eben, EBN. So he's at Novi Williams on Twitter, and he put out the payouts, or basically the projected payouts per conference. Now, Sportico are the ones who do this. They do a lot of stuff with finances in sports. You know, they are Sportico, the business of sports is their title. So here are the amount of units that each school or each conference is going to get. The SEC at 8 teams in, they have 17 units. Their projected payouts, $34 million. The Big 12 had 7 teams in, 16 units, $32 million payout. Big East, 5 teams in, 15 units, $30 million payout. Now, obviously, this could change. Big 10, 8 teams in, 14 units, $28 million. The ACC, 12 units, $24 million. Mountain, that could still go up. Mountain West Conference, 4 teams in, 8 units, $16 million. Pac, 4 teams in, 7 units, $14 million. I mean, yikes. Guys. Because that's it for the power leagues. We've got WCC, CUSA, American, Ivy, Northeast, South, and the rest of them all the way down. I cannot stress to you all how much this matters. All right. The Pac-12 has 12 schools. The Big 12 has 10, but they're still called like Pac-12, 12 schools. There you go. In what we're seeing right here, the Big 12 per school is going to pay out. So, it's just 32 million divided by 10. What is that, right? I think it's that, what is it? 3.2 million times 10 is 32 million. There you go. So each school is going to get $3.2 million. All right. The Pac-12, 1.4 million. If it was just 10 schools, it's even less than that. So whatever, 14 divided by 12, $1.1 million per school. So it's 1.17 actually. So the Big 12 is getting over $2 million more per school than the Pac-12 did. And this is in a down year. This is a down year for the Big 12 conference. That is shocking. That is absolutely shocking that, what a gap that is. Now, once again, it's not a ton of money, but that is a pretty big gap. The tournament's a pretty big revenue moneymaker. And that's why, guys, the Big 12 had a bad year. Imagine if Texas, Kansas State could have kept this thing going, which once again, guys, they were close. They was a 3-point loss for Texas or for Kansas State. And Texas was what was it? They lost by, it was a tie game with a minute left. Right. And so we're close to even being more. The Pac-12 was not close at all. UCLA was out. In the Sweet 16, they got bounced, right? So this has been a really difficult spot for the Pac-12, and this is not a spot where they can promise folks they're going to see more money. Also, the basketball side of things too, like the Pac-12 network is just not. I mean, once again, the Big 12, the Pac-12 rather, they had Oregon versus UCLA, one of their two of their biggest brands, on the Pac-12 network in the Pac-12 conference semifinal in their tournament on the Pac-12 network. It just cannot happen. But the Big 12, not the highest payout, but they end up getting $32 million. And with your 10 schools, you distributed 3.2 per school. And that ends up being, 3.2. So 32 million, second highest payout. The SEC puts 8 in. Now they have 14 teams. So 34 divided by 14, that gets you 2.4. So the Big 12, there is a pretty decent gap with them and everybody else. I think the next closest one here would be the Big East, right? The Big East, I believe it's a 10 team league. Big East goes $30 million. Divide that up with your 10 teams, you get $3 million per team. So they had a really nice run and they're not even done yet. Right. So I think this is where we're talking about Brett Yormark seeing the value of this league. It's not just in the NCAA tournament numbers that we're talking about here. It's the fact that this is the best basketball league in the country. It still is. I still believe that because you really can't nominate. Like the ACC is up there. That's fine. But they're not having the year in, year out tournament success that they did every single year. Like Carolina and Duke are not always. Carolina missed tournament. Duke got bounced by Tennessee in the round of 16, round of 32. They get bounced by Tennessee there. This is not like they're heavy hitters, and in Virginia too. They went back to being an early exit as well. They're not coming in with the top teams the way they normally the big brands. Miami, Elite Eight, Final Four, they're doing it, but it's not like just, these teams always there all the time. I'd say, hey, Kansas, same thing. Sure. The Big 12, it feels like, is having deeper runs more often now. Now, ACC has, a little bit before that. Yes, 100% sure. But Roy and K are gone. That's my bigger point. So, I think I'm going to hold up and wait, especially though Hubert makes the championship game, but then doesn't make the tournament with the same team next year. I think we have to kind of put the, the brakes on, all right, where are these schools right now? Are they what we expect them to be? Are we going to see them, with the Tom Izzo type runs where they're in the championship, the Final Four every 4 years, that kind of deal? Are they there yet? We'll see. And I think it's rational to say, hey, maybe, yeah. But it's also too, it's those legendary coaches are gone. So ACC's got a claim to it off of history. Big East, top of the league's awesome. The SEC's putting more teams in the tournament now than they, it feels like they ever have before. I think this was tied for the lead. But they're not seeing it all the way through, right? They all got KO'd in the Sweet 16. And so the Big 12 is still receiving these payouts, still doing a great job because there's not having a lot of teams lose early in the tournament. These teams are making runs, and it's coming from different places a lot of the time. But it's still these recently, really uplifted programs, right? Tech under Beard, they're trying to get back there. Obviously Baylor has been fully realized their championship. Kansas, where they can too, and K-State under Jerome Tang, my God, looks like the next school to fit right into that group. And look, I know Texas and OU are leaving, but Texas run this year, they're still a Big 12 school. And they're replacing Texas with Houston. So, if you want to make that comp, that's kind of the comp coming in next. So this is where the Big 12 has an advantage. This is where Brett Yormark sees this Big 12 conference basketball as a money-making enterprise. And also, I think he sees this as an opportunity potentially down the line to sell basketball independent from football. And I think also we understand that this as well, the basketball of them has been big money. Basketball, I think, is a sport of the future because kids love basketball. It is a shorter game, right, than football, than baseball. And I'm not saying it's going to overtake football, but still people love it. People love the NCAA tournament. And so the Big 12 is doing what they can to grow this brand. And despite a bad year, I think the finances show that the overall health of the league is still in a very, very good spot. The returns financially indicate how deep you made it or how many teams you had, kind of how deep they made it. And they didn't make it all the way. But even with their results not going all the way to the Final Four, they still outmade every single other conference. Kind of just shows you per unit, where the Big 12 is per game, NCAA tournament. They're still getting the job done more so on the whole than most conferences are, and kind of reaffirming that. So I think, it's weird because I know it's a financial thing, but kind of any doubts maybe about this being the best conference or not being the best conference anymore, I think this kind of squashes those, which is very interesting because it's a financial number. You guys can check these out. Once again, go check them out over Eben Novy, EBENNOVY-Williams. He has these, and Novy at Novy_Williams. Sportico has these as well. So check this out. All right, that will do it for today's show. Fun one coming your way tomorrow. John Kurtz is coming on. We'll talk all things Big 12, K-State, Jerome Tang. We'll discuss state of the Big 12, conference realignment. We'll hit all of it tomorrow with John Kurtz. So make sure you guys check that out. Follow us on Twitter at LOBig12. You guys can find me at @JoshNeighbors_. Make sure you guys like and subscribe the videos, subscribe to the channel, like the videos, leave comments as well. Till next time, my friends, as always, stay safe.